Welcome. Welcome, everyone. This is episode 2 of another wonderful season 3 of the Warwick Zoom Garden Plot. Welcome back. I know we have quite a few questions lined up, so we'll jump right in. Go ahead, Christy.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to first off start out with some updates from Sara on the Warwick Community Garden. We're also going to take a peek at Chad's garden. Then we'll have some announcements and we'll finish up with Q&A, and hopefully, Bill, you're still around for that because I know you have the very question or the very answer to the question I have for you. So let's jump right in. Go ahead, Christy.
Okay.
Okay. So
That would be Sara.
this
would
is
be me.
Sara. Go ahead, Sara. Tell us about this pepper seed.
Oh, I just want to tell you, the Warwick Community Garden, we have had several sessions, but we have not have anything actually come up yet due to this cold weather. So, who wants to look at pictures of dirt? But our peas haven't even come up. But we have all the peas planted. We have beets planted, lettuce, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, and scallions. And I'm hoping we'll get something pressing up out of the ground this week. So I wanted to show you these pepper plants, which I showed you 2 weeks ago. And for those who are growing their own plants, these are ready to transplant as far as I'm concerned. You see how they have 2 sets of leaves at the top? So I will be moving these into little 2-inch or 4-inch square pots this week. Usually I put 2 in a pot to save space. And interestingly, I don't know if you can see it, but the plants on the left is actually growing some roots off the stem.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before on peppers. So
Oh, no.
I know. So that's where the peppers are at. I thought, we might be able to follow the peppers along as for people who aren't familiar with growing their own.
What kind of
Okay.
peppers are these, Sara?
Oh, there's 12 rows across in this. So there's 12 varieties. There's poblanos, a variety of sweeter peppers. There's lipstick. I grow a lot of different varieties, no bell peppers.
Awesome. Are you familiar with shishito peppers?
They're hot peppers.
They're
I know-
not actually. Yeah, you can grow
I know
them.
which one. I know which ones they are.
Yeah.
We had them one time and they weren't a big hit. So
Okay. I'm just wondering if I have a bad batch of seeds because I've been waiting 2 weeks now and nary a pepper seed has sprouted. So I'm so envious when I see yours.
but do you have them under lights and do you have them on a heat mat?
Not under lights, but on a heat mat.
Well, they do take a while. I started these, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago and they were up. So I probably planted them 2 weeks before that.
Okay,
You
it's been
can
about
just-
2 weeks, so any day now, I guess. Cross my
Yeah,
fingers.
any day
Okay.
now. Okay. Don't give up. And then this I wanted to show you. This is, I made some soil blocks yesterday and it was cold out on that deck, let me tell you. I decided sometimes I start my tomatoes in soil blocks and I'm probably a week late starting tomatoes, but that's how it is. So I wanted to show you this. This tray is really designed for soil blocks because this tray becomes very heavy. And then this silver looking thing back in the turquoise tub, that's the soil block maker. And I do not use Elliot Coleman's recipe. He has the official recipe. I looked at it when I started doing this and it had a lot of ingredients. I'm more into using what I have. So I started doing this years ago. I looked on the internet until I found someone who was using a mix that seemed easy and I didn't have to buy a lot of extra things. So what I use is, I got some mulch over from the village, which I had to sift because it's full of, compost. I got compost from the village, and it's full of little sticks. I used some composted cow manure. I put some seeding mix in there and a little fertilizer. And what you do, it's basically, say, a scoop of compost, a scoop of manure, and then a scoop of seeding mix. And I haven't made it for a couple of years, so I'll make a new batch and I tweak the recipe a little bit. But what you do is you mix these things together in a tub and you wet it so that when you press it with your hand, it holds together firm. And then you take this device, press it down, press the soil in, and then if you look at the next slide, see the silver device here? You place it into the tray and press down on this lever and you get these blocks.
That's an awesome
it's-
device. Where did you get it?
I bought this a number of years ago, and either from Johnny's or Amazon. I knew this would be a question and I looked. This particular one is an English one. And I have checked and no one has it in stock at the moment. However, there are other ones. This is a very, like a nice heavy duty one,
Looks
but there
actually-
are other ones available, through garden supply places.
May I say, Sarah, you're an amazing soil block maker, because last year I tried and was not, my blocks looked like a little beat up. So these are beautiful. You should be in a magazine.
But did you use one of these presses?
Yeah, I had the press, I mean, I did all right, but I definitely did. They did not look as beautiful as yours. You definitely have the touch. You could do a soil block workshop.
Well, you have to work with the mix a little bit. I mean, I spent some time researching the mix and tweaking around with tweaking the mix. That's because it's heavier than just seed starting. You have to have some compost or manure, something in there to hold everything together. If you just use seed mix, it'll never work because it won't bind. And then getting this on this top row, let me tell you, squeezing them in to fit this thing is a trick in itself. But, and then it comes with little plastic pieces that make dimples. But I found they were too big for tomato seeds, so I took them out and I just made them and poked them with a chopstick and put my seeds in.
Michael says it looks like a pan of brownies, and that was the thought that came to mind for me too. It's like you'd win some awards making brownies for sure. I want to see what your brownies look like, Sarah.
Because I also have a little one that makes a really tiny soil block. I bought them as a set. When I never really use it, it's good for really fine seeds. And the idea is you're supposed to start them in these little tiny soil blocks. And there's another addition you put in here that makes a square, and then you put the little square down in here. That was way too much effort. I'm into doing this to make it simple. The reason I like this for larger plants is that once they're in here, they grow for they can stay in these soil blocks for a fairly long time. And then when you're ready to move them in, transplant into something larger, you're not going through sticking the little knife in and working them out of the cell block. They come out fairly easily, and you can easily put them into the ground or into another container. Tomatoes, you usually have to move into another container, but
So you don't get the roots like all enmeshed?
no.
No.
And even if they do, you just root prune them. I mean, just slice them, but they don't mesh together too much. I mean, I will tell you, this thing is heavy once you get it filled up. So that's why you need a strong one of these plastic trays. So I have this is inside another tray with a heat mat under it. and then a cover over top of it. I don't have the lights on it yet because I can get them to come up without the lights. I don't have that many lights. So that's the quick version of soil blocks. And if you want to learn how to maneuver this device and get your soil blocks good, go on YouTube. That's how I figured it out. There's a million people making soil blocks on YouTube, and they all have a different recipe. So just take what you like out of the recipe, but they will show you the method of putting it in, squishing everything together and getting the block to make. And
So it looks like once you squish it down, it's fairly straightforward and simple. The time goes into getting the mix right. Am I correct?
The time goes into getting the mix right, yes. And then you do have to get it squished in well. The people on YouTube are doing massive amounts of this. So I just mix up small amounts of material at a time out on the deck and keep mixing it, as I go along. But you do have to really get it worked into this. That was the mistake I made at first. If you don't have it compacted well, when you put them down, they fall apart. And then you take them out and put it back in the bin and start all over again.
How much do you have to water that? I mean, it's a thicker blend, so you probably don't have to water it as much as regular pots.
No, right.
But how do you determine when you water it? I usually tell by lifting the pot and feeling how light it is. And if it's lighter, then it means it needs more water. But you don't lift these up and see how heavy they feel.
Well, no, once they're up and starting to grow, I still have them in another tray so I can water them from the bottom. But I just use the simple, look at the top and touch it with my finger. And when it feels like it needs some water, I pour water down in the other tray. Or once they go outside, I put them on like boot trays and water them on boot trays.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I don't have a exact time when I water. It's like when I bake, when it's done.
Sticking with the brownie theme.
Sticking with brownie theme. Set the timer, look at it, poke it, another minute or two.
A lot of people do cooking the same way. Some people will look at a recipe book and then go to the store and get all their ingredients. And other people will look in the fridge and see what they have and decide what to cook. It seems you're following the second method for your.
Yeah, I cook that way. I garden that way. I do everything that way. I combine recipes. I'm one of those.
Oh, good
So
for you.
Sarah, I've never seen soil blocks before, so this is new to me. When you water them, it seems like they would start to fall apart. That doesn't happen?
Well, remember, this soil is pretty moist when I start out, and it has one seed in each one of these blocks. Plus, I have it covered over with saran wrap right on top of it till they come up. And then I have another dome on top of it. So until the seeds sprout and start growing and you have lights really on them, they don't dry out that much. Even those pepper plants, I don't have to water them very often. And then I have that little tiny watering can, I think I showed you last time, that I would go over the top of items, and it has a very fine spout on it, which doesn't disrupt the plants, or I pour water in the bottom. And it's not until they really get going and they're outside that things start to dry out. And by then, the roots are holding the soil block together.
Right.
Makes sense?
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Good. Sarah, do we have one more slide from you, or is this it?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
No, that's it.
Okay, well, that is amazing. Certainly easier than my painstaking newspaper pots that I'm making by hand. Takes
Oh
me
my
about
God.
5 minutes for
Oh
each
my
one.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, there's some expense in the setup, buying the trays, that device. I don't know, the ones that they have are less expensive now, are about $40. I think that this one with the little one is now running about $80, but they're out of stock. But
Wow.
this thing will last forever. It's
It looks that
extremely.
way.
This was really great because I've tried the newspaper pots and also the cow pots. And I remember years ago seeing these things. And
Mhm.
I thought, oh, that when I started looking at the recipe for the
Mhm.
soil that goes in, I thought, oh, I'm not doing all of that. So I went to the
Right.
newspaper and the cow pots. But after listening to you and watching this, I'm going to try this next year because it sounds much easier.
It is still work. And I would
Yeah.
say, if you're going to be starting a lot of seedlings, I think it's worth the investment. Because remember, I get into it for this big garden. If you're doing it just for yourself, it's probably not worth the investment.
Well, I found those newspaper pots.
Mm.
Well, I won't call them anything. And the cow pot, sometimes what I found is that the pot itself didn't disintegrate soon enough.
I don't like those either.
So that, the roots are trying to expand, but the pot's in the way. So
Right.
yeah, this sounds much more direct.
It is. The
Mhm.
other thing you can do, the one I showed with the peppers, is you can buy them at Johnny's, and they're selling them individually now. I bought these trays here. Fortunately, I stocked up on these things years ago before everything went through the roof. But the lady at Barbara at Midsummer Farm,
Yeah.
she turned me onto this. I took a seed starting class, and the thing is, they have a deep well. It's not like the little flimsy things you get from the garden center.
Mhm.
This is a durable plastic made for growers, and the well is about this deep. You can get, I have one tray that's for herbs and things that holds, I don't know, 120. This is 7.
Oh, wow.
This is, yeah, this
How,
is
how
7
deep? How deep? We didn't see your fingers. How deep?
About 3 inches.
Wow.
Thanks.
Right. So the
What
thing
is your
is,
source, Sarah?
huh?
What is the source? Where did you get them?
Johnny's or Amazon, everyone sells this stuff now.
Okay.
Because gardening exploded.
Mhm.
And these you use regular seed starting mix, the no soil.
Yeah.
So you do, once they're up, like you have to start fertilizing, and you can't leave the plants in these forever. They will eventually get kind of leggy and ratty. But
Mhm.
if you want to start a lot of plants and get a good start without going through all the making the blocks and buying all that equipment, I would get these trays. I've had these trays for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I bought a case of them. I
Mhm.
reuse these every year. I still have some brand new ones. I reuse them. I wash them out, put some bleach on them, and use them to start seeds every year. And then you get if you use the heat mat's the key. The
Mhm.
heat mat and then the light, you get really good germination from this technique.
The depth really makes a difference because I've saved pots from that High Country Gardens and they have like 4-inch pots. And so I've just washed them and reused them, and everything I've started in there has done beautifully. It's those other smaller pots I used for a while. I have a little set with a dome and everything, but the pots are only about 2 inches deep, and I haven't had success with those.
Well, the idea is these are long and narrow, so you get a nice root development down in there.
Yeah.
And then the trick is getting them out. So what you do is when you're ready to transplant, you water them. And then I take like a small paring knife, and I stick my paring knife right down along this edge and kind of pop them out. And you have a really nice, healthy root down in there.
Mhm.
Maybe next time I'll try to take pictures while I'm I don't have anyone to hold a camera, but I'll try to take pictures while I'm transplanting these. And you
That
can,
would be great.
we can follow the journey.
Follow the journey of the pepper seedlings. That's wonderful. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
All righty, moving on to Chad.
Well,
seed-
you know, I don't, you, Bill has to leave really soon. Do you want to, sorry to
Mm.
skip the order. Do you want to ask the question before he leaves and we
Yes,
can come
my
back? to me?
one pressing thank you, Chad, for being so gracious. Bill,
No problem.
since you have a time constraint, yes, here's my long question. I'm also being inundated with aphids, and I remember you mentioned at the last session you had some aphids attacking your crops. How do I get rid of them? Or do I just ride it out and hope that they'll just keep attacking the stressed lettuces and not migrate onto the other crops in there, the arugula and the mache?
Well, they certainly like certain things better than others, but they don't really stop. I mean, they just spread. So what I've done in my outside greenhouse is take a firm spray of water from a hose and just water everything, not just from the top, but from the sides, so that you could knock them off. So I'm trying to knock them off, and then I water things really well. So I'm hopefully drowning them as well. And then I leave the greenhouse open overnight when the temperature is close to freezing, but not going to freeze. So if it's in the 30 to 40 range, I figure that's going to make the aphids pretty unhappy. And I've gotten rid of them. I had a pretty big infestation, but right now I don't see any in the greenhouse.
Wow.
So, it seems to work, but you have to spray the plants from the sides too to get the aphids that are hiding, you know. If you
Yeah,
just-
so my winter lettuces are head lettuces and they're in there in between every leaf. And I
Yeah.
think I just
Yeah.
lost cause.
Well, a good spray can get in there. If you really, you may have to ruffle up the lettuce a little bit with the spray.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
and again, maybe you
You
don't
try-
get rid of 100%, but you'll get rid of most of them.
Okay. Okay.
Michelle, did you try safer soap? A safer soap could knock it down, and that'll get should get in between the leaves.
Safer soap? What is that, Mark? Where do I?
Yeah,
get that? Fine, anyway.
SAFER apostrophe S soap. It's basically soap. It's not a detergent, it's a soap. And what it does is it breaks the tension in the water and causes the water to enter the trachea of the insects and drowns them. So it's
Wow.
totally safe. It's soap. It's literally ivory soap. It's not
Okay.
not harmful. You can just rinse it off. It's like just putting soap on your lettuce.
Awesome.
It's probably the most benign pesticide that there is. Don't use detergent though. A lot of people, like if you go online, they'll say like just put in Dawn or something like that. Detergents are different. Detergents could harm the plant, but a soap, a strict, you know, what's a soap again? It's a potassium salt of whatever. I forget the chemical makeup, but anyway, it's a potassium salt. That's what you want. You want just a straight soap, and it's called Safer Soap, and you can get it at RTU or you can buy a concentrate, and then either one you can use. Just follow the directions, and I use it on potato beetles in the garden, and it kills them instantly, practically. They suffocate, they drop right off.
Wow.
So-
I did not know of this, Mark. Thank you. This is great. All right. That was my one question for Bill, and the rest were sort of just general questions. So we can go back to Chad. Thank you, Chad, for being gracious and letting me skip the line here.
I know we got to get Bill's knowledge when we have it. All right. Again, you know, I'm trying to start seeds. I find seeds very incredibly frustrating. It's not, I'm just doing this because I'm also in charge of a community garden and I wanted to start as many seeds as I could, but it's definitely not the way my brain works, because then, you know, and then I just use seed starting mix, which I guess was a mistake because that seems to be drying out like very easily. So I have them, that's in my little garage. If you can see my little setup with, I have trays and lights and a heating pad underneath them. And I'm trying to, according to Bill, I'm trying to get them really close to the light. I see as I'm really raising them up there. And I do have stuff coming up. And then I'll show you later, I have a little greenhouse outside. And then we have pollinator pathway meetings we've also been having. And I started those seeds, which is counter to everything it's really bothering me because I'm always trying to keep things warm and hot. And the pollinator things, I had to get them cold. So it's very confusing to my brain that you want them to freeze and be outside. So, but actually I think a few little pollinators are coming up. So I find that very exciting as well. So there's a chance my seeds could all survive or they could all die. So I'm starting them and they come up, but I'm hopefully will get some right. And right now I'm just using seed starting mix. And when I transplant, I make a little combination like Sara does, a little compost, little potting mix, and a little seed starting mix. I try to make a combination, but just using the seed starting mix of was it Dr. Earth or something like that? I have to spray or water it like 4 times a day. Otherwise it just
Really?
totally dries out. And that's
Did you get it really wet to start?
I thought I did, but and even when I put water in the bottom, it doesn't seem to even wick up from the bottom. So this is very.
Seed starting mix is soilless, and getting it wet to begin with can be tricky. You think it's wet, but the trick is you put it down in one of these plastic tubs and you fill it pretty full of water and move it around, swish it with your hands. I put on like throwaway rubber gloves that we had for COVID, because I don't like it in my fingernails, and really squish it, because if you get it adequately moistened in the beginning, you can keep it moist, but you probably didn't get it thoroughly moistened.
That sounds exactly like what I didn't do.
There you go. So if you get that wet, you won't have this problem.
Right. So now I'm already in, now I'm into it already. So it's like now I'm stuck until I transfer them.
Did you try putting them down in a tub and soaking them?
Oh, maybe. I guess from the bottom, maybe I'll try that. Yeah. Because thank God I'm around a little bit. So I was like,
Right.
if I was gone the whole day, they would definitely not make it.
Once
So,
my
right,
seedlings are up, I have giant tubs outside and I fill them with water, and I take the whole tray and I soak them.
Okay, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll take that
Try
out.
soaking.
Yeah, because I need them. If they get wet, then I'm really good. But just this drying out thing is
Yeah,
getting me.
soak.
Mark, you're chained to your seedlings there and can't leave the
Yeah.
house.
I was out, I've been busy with massage. I call my wife, I'm like, go spray the seedlings now. And then she forgot, and I got home, they were like, everything was like,
I have a similar problem. I have a similar problem going on. What is that
They
thing that's
recovered.
around there? Is that a thermal blanket?
That's like, I got actually from Kelly Collins, who was a old member of
Oh,
Sustainable Warwick.
Kelly,
when
Kelly.
She moved away, she gave me this little zipper, because I'm in the garage is cold, so I kind of zip that up, put the lights on and the heat lamp. And again, everything, if it was this damn drying out thing, I'd really be cooking, but it's really frustrating.
Maybe
But I'm going to
there's
try,
more.
hopefully Sarah's idea will help. That
We'll
could
get
be,
you growing. We'll get you growing seedlings yet, Chad.
I know, yeah, this is not my, my brain is constantly working and watching new things. So like again, what Bill does, I would go nuts how he's very consistent all year long, starting every 2 weeks. I have a very checklist mentality. It's like, I'm done with the lettuce. Like, I don't know if I could say, all right, I got to start the lettuce again in 2 weeks. I got to start the lettuce. But that would be good to continuously to keep going is important. But I'm gonna and again, it's not the end of the world. Bye, Bill. The right, we could always, and I have people growing some stuff for me, and Sara was always generous last year, had some extras, but I like to grow a lot. So, I started the, I have the already outside. I think I'll show you that later. I have kale, Swiss chard, lettuce, and I should have started those earlier, really. And then, but I'll show you, this is my garden, right? Not the community garden, which my garden has been very abused, actually, because the community garden literally takes all my time, and sometimes I forget my garden altogether. But this is my little cheap IKEA greenhouse out here. And I just put out stuff recently in the last few days, the kale and other things. I probably won't even put stuff in because this is cold weather stuff. I'm probably going to take it out tomorrow 'cause I think it's supposed to be like 60 or 70 degrees, so
Yeah.
it'll get to be like 100 degrees in there. So
Yeah.
I think this will be much more useful when I'm hardening off the, tomatoes, peppers, and the warm weather stuff.
Yes, yes.
And at night, maybe I'll put them in here during, as it gets later, and I'll close the door. But that would be helpful. I'm going to try soaking them tomorrow, and then that would make my life much easier. I didn't have to constantly. Well, yeah, before I go to bed, I'm going to have to spray them good. So right, this is my little IKEA setup, and then next to it, I have. Let me see. That's elderberry. That's the elderberries are starting to come up, and I'll show you a whole picture. I have a very small backyard, so Greenwood Lake is definitely different than Warwick. So as you see, my neighbor's like an inch away from me. We're very close up. I don't know.
I'm sorry, which is the elderberry?
Oh, go back. That slide, those are elderberries coming up. And behind that is a rose ragusa. But I don't have the mouse, but that's elderberry. And then I have rose ragusa that I get my rose hips from. Then over here, the first one is hazelnut. Hopefully I could join Michael in
Wow.
eating my hazelnuts. This is I think the 3rd or 4th year, so hopefully they'll produce some hazelnuts.
My hazelnut bushes, I'll try to get a picture next week, but they've got these things hanging
Yeah.
that
Yeah, what is that?
Catkins?
I'm not sure what they're called, but
Wait, who said that? Someone had what was that?
Sarah, I think. What did you call them,
Catkins.
Sarah? Catkins.
I think-
okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually gonna ask that as a question. Right, I have these little things dangling from them. And what are those? I guess seeds? I don't even know what they are. I guess.
That's
I
usually
think they're
the
the flower. aren't they?
male sexual organ.
Oh, okay.
It's usually like on oaks, it's what is the pollen. It's on oaks. I don't know about the hazel, was it hazelnuts you said?
Yes.
Yep.
I have 2
I'm
hazel.
sorry. Yeah, I don't know about them, but usually on trees, a lot of times you get the catkins or the male sex organ, which is the provides the pollen.
Oh, all right. And then below this hazelnut is some strawberry growing, hopefully more this year. And then and what hasn't come up yet, also behind there is comfrey, which definitely comes up. That's like very vigorous, that if one leaf falls, it'll form a whole new comfrey plant. So, I'm trying to focus a lot more on perennials, I guess, in my personal backyard. So, it's been more of a long process, and I have to convince my wife that I swear to God, this is going to eventually grow and we'll have hazelnut, because I bought everything as like a twig, and literally that cherry tree was like a twig, 3 years ago. And I'm like, I swear to God, this cherry tree, you just got to hang in there. But last year, I tell you, I got 1 cherry. But the cherry tree definitely seems to get hit hard by a lot of the critters seem to love the cherry tree. So I'm really have to pay attention to that. But I got ladybug. Ladybugs seem to eat the aphids. I don't know if you want to try that, Michelle. I don't know if you put that in a greenhouse, but the ladybugs went to town on the aphids. That was a big buffet for them. And once I saw 1 ladybug on that tree, I relaxed, and they really took care of business.
Awesome. Well, I might come to your house and borrow some ladybugs.
Yeah. Well, they sell them at the Greenwood Lake Garden Center. They have ladybugs.
All right, let me
Yeah.
write that down. That's wonderful.
And then they also sell praying mantises, even though I saw a posting today about to make sure to get native praying mantis, because if you get one from a different location, they could be very voracious and eat.
Wow.
It seems you got to really be careful whatever you grow a plant.
Right.
And you could go to the, sorry?
I was going to say, sorry, what is the picture on the right? Did you tell us already or did I miss it?
Oh, that was a cherry tree? Yeah, that
That was a
these
cherry. Okay.
hazelnut and cherry tree. And there's my
Right.
little compost leaf pile in the corner behind the tree. And then we go to the next slide. Sorry, we missed our shimmy, but we'll do that right after I'm done.
Yep.
Now, this is a challenge, and I'm trying to be good, but I'm doing I left all my leaves. I left all the stuff there, which does not that attractive looking. Like we're saying, no mow May, and all these things. I didn't pick up any leaves at the end of last season. And again, I love my wife very much, but she does want to kill me slightly because she thinks it looks pretty gross, but I'm fighting. And I even left the old on the back as asparagus. I didn't even usually really cut it up and take it up, but I kind of left it there. hoping, because then I even read that a lot of insects will house themselves in the old stalks. So hopefully my asparagus will come up soon. And this is the 4th year, so I'm going to actually eat for the first time my own asparagus. And
I think, Chad,
yes,
I think asparagus is an exception to the rule of leaving things in place. And Sarah, of course, has in her community garden, she likes to get things out. But there is something asparagus beetles, and the older your patch is, the more likely to have asparagus beetles. And so what I've heard is best is sort of at the end of the season, once the fronds have sort of died back and done everything they can for the root, you cut them back, and you take any mulch you had and you just get rid of those things. You don't compost them on your property. You get rid of them.
okay.
And then you mulch it with something. And then first thing in the spring, you take that mulch and you get rid of it, thinking that any of the eggs for the asparagus beetles might be in there again. And Leslie is saying something, but sure, she's on mute.
Unmute, Leslie.
Hi, yeah, I was actually just saying, oh yeah, I know, I've heard about that. I wasn't really saying anything to share. I was just kind of talking to myself. But
So-
All right, so see,
So-
you can't win. I'm trying to do this
In-
now. It's the one time I shouldn't have done it.
In many cases, I think it's a good thing to do to leave old plants standing over winter for the critters who need them. But asparagus to me is an exception.
Okay, I will definitely.
And after the shimmy in
hopefully
place,
not
after the shimmy in place, we have a question about asparagus. But let's not rush to the shimmy in place. You still have a couple more picks to share.
Then I have June berries, which have really spread, which is great because this is like a little corner area where I really can't grow anything. It's like shaded and a bunch of trunks. So I'm really letting the June berries take over that whole little part. And then I guess maybe I'll show you if you can. And then I have some rain barrels in the back that I will hook up shortly. If you want to go to the next slide.
When you say June berries, are those raspberries?
No,
Or
because I think that's the name, June berries. I
ones on
think
the
those
right.
Are they wine berries, Chad?
sorry, wine berries. Yes, wine berries.
Oh.
Wine berries.
Got it. Okay.
I'm getting all my berries confused. They're wine berries. I really enjoy them very much, but they are very
Invasive,
spiky.
right?
Yes, they're very spiky. You got to really be careful when you pick them because they will get you good. So, right, wine berries. And then I have a peach tree that grew really good last year, but the branches they was too heavy. Like some of the branches were really bending over. I had to try to, and my system of protecting them last year was I wrapped around fishing wire all around them, and that seemed to work. Because otherwise, the year before, I didn't get one peach. So last year, I literally wrapped it over and over again, multiple times with fishing wire, and that seemed to keep the squirrels and birds away. Because I guess it's good. It's very confusing for them because they kind of flying and like they can't even see it, so it kind of whacks them out of the way. So that's a very effective thing. And then below that, I try to grow, beets, carrots, and I just put those in. And these are my 2 raised beds. Again, left them pretty bad, a lot of leaves on them and all that stuff. And then I trellis stuff in the back. And I really have to stop putting stuff in here again, but my poor garden does take second place to my community garden. It does seem. And then
Is your peach tree starting to bloom? It looks like
Yeah.
the top branch is this.
Yeah,
couple,
so I took
like,
a picture. Yeah, it's starting to bloom already.
Beautiful.
And then, they would have little black spots in them. They were very tasty. Like they were a little hard and black spots, but I was eating peaches. And no one else in my family would touch them. We made peach preserve. I was having, 4 peaches a day. So I was like, I'm not wasting any peach. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they'll come out a little bit. It's funny, when I first bought this was a tree. It was supposed to be, it was like grafted with I guess apricots, peaches, nectarines.
Wow.
But I think last year it just seemed to appear to be peaches growing in all of them. So I don't know. That's, and you can definitely see the graft spots. I don't know if it is possible for like one type of fruit to take over the tree, but last year was the first year I really got fruit from it. So it was interesting. And this is my raised beds, and I think I might have one more picture. I'm not sure if I do or not. Yeah, I mean, just to just show you how tiny my yard is, and plus this middle area is we put a pool there, so I literally have just I just have the edges of my garden to grow stuff. So, I think it's been very productive, and that's a big mulberry tree in the back, a giant mulberry tree in the corner. So that I get a lot of mulberries, and I share them with all my neighbors, because there's only so many mulberries I could eat or make jam and all that thing. So this is my garden. Hopefully, yes.
Sounds like you have a nice fruit harvest, Chad, between the mulberries and the
Yeah, right. And I
peaches and wineberries.
Yeah, I put artichoke in last year. Hopefully they grow. That I don't see them yet. I guess hopefully they'll come up. And then I had blueberries, but the production was not enough. I think I'm going to move those. Even I have 3 or 4 blueberries. I mean, again, I don't have that much room. So, and I had raspberries. I took them out because they really took over, and I just don't have that much room. So, like the wineberry is fine because I really got that distant corner, but the raspberries were taking over the whole middle area. And I had a beautiful, amazing raspberry bunch, but I couldn't grow anything else. It really took up the whole back. So I'm gonna, then I have borage comes up, seems every year. Then I have Jerusalem artichokes that seem to come back every year as well. But I could probably, I then have to get better with being a little more productive in my open space. But thank you. I guess we're ready to shimmy.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chad. We're gonna take a minute, everybody. It's 45 minutes in as opposed to our half hour, but here you go. 1 minute, and then we're back to the asparagus question.
Okay.
Look at the shimmy in place.
Oh, I love that. Good job, Christy.
Chad.
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
do you want me to start any tomatoes for you?
If you could, I start a lot of tomatoes, but I'm gonna. If you would love to, I would be more than happy to take them. I really want to make my garden twice as productive this year. Even though we have a lot of members, I really envy your membership of your Warwick garden. So if I have a community, no one signed up yet.
Really?
How many members did you have last year, Chad?
Well, we started with like 20, 25, but then, again, as the year went on, less and less people came. We had just a lot going on. I'm still hoping I send out Facebook posts and emails, but I've had a few people join as far, our board members or people that came last year, and I spoke to one woman, but hopefully I really need to,
Yeah,
But
and I'm sure you've considered, letting the gardening store know and the library.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put a flyer. But even then, my board's discussing. We might even take a different approach with our garden. Even maybe more of a learning garden, like do a lot of demonstrations, learning. Hopefully, Sara will help us, plant sweet potatoes, and we have someone putting lettuce in, and I had the elementary school put the peas in a few weeks ago. So, maybe a different model rather than people are coming, but maybe just a few people really tending it and having it a place of that we produce a lot of food and hopefully share it with people.
Mm.
Well,
And that might be because I don't have that much free time really, but I'm working out Saturdays, so that I'm having a hard time finding when I could do my regular work days. So as I'm getting busier at work.
that's why we do Sunday morning, because I need my Saturdays, and in the spring I go to garden sales. But the way the community garden got started was Jeff is really good at PR, so we would put notices in the paper and have open meetings and come and give our dog and pony show about the garden. And we did this for years. Because remember, we're into our 11th or 12th
Yeah.
year.
True, true.
And only 2 years ago did we stop having open meetings. Like, we have about 30, consistent members. And that's
a lot.
about right. Well, a lot of it's husband and wives, but we charge a couple the same. So we're not collecting for 30 people, but we're getting 30, but about 20 people, maybe 15 to 20 show up at a time. But this has been developed over a number of years. And then COVID really sort of gelled everyone into more serious friendships. So it takes a while to build up.
Yeah, I'll get there. I mean, and you have an idea, we definitely are like on a residential street, like in a really one that no one even goes down and like, what's Papaw Street? So,
Right.
but I'm not getting discouraged. It's all
Don't get
good.
discouraged, but I know what you mean. I grow perennials at home, and my own beds are a weedy mess because I
I
spend so much time organizing the vegetable garden.
I know.
Anyway, enough of our chat.
Okay, Christy, what else do you have for us?
Okay.
Okay, we have some announcements. Our next
Okay.
Zoom garden plot is going to be on Monday, April 25th at 7:30. And Chad, you're going to lead that one? Chad, you there?
He's doing a thumbs up.
I gave a thumbs up.
I can't see him. I can't see
Okay,
him.
yes.
Okay, good. And then the pollinator pathway are still having their meetings on the 1st and the 3rd Mondays through
Well,
May.
I'll let people, I mean, last time we said we might take a little break on that, so I'll let everyone know, but
Okay.
yeah, I think maybe take a few weeks off, but
Still
I'll let you-
having the April 18th one?
I don't think so, but sorry, I'll make sure everyone gets an email if they're interested. Email me if you want to be on the email list, otherwise,
I
I
think,
don't think so.
can I inject a question at this point?
Yes,
Does anybody have in their garden something like so we're vegetable gardeners. Do you have something that's maybe planted beside your garden that isn't a vegetable that you think is really good for pollinators, or maybe it's a native plant, or that you think is maybe just good luck for your garden to have it there? Are there?
Sage.
Yes,
I have
yes.
Russian sage in the corners, and the bees that come around there are amazing. And then there are butterflies also that flitter around the smaller butterfly bushes that are nearby.
Are you looking for perennials or annuals? Or does it make a difference?
Well, perennials are always nice because then you just, you plant them once and you're set. But especially native plants, I've sort of had my feet in both of these projects a little bit. I'm not working too hard this year, but if I could have something that was both a native plant and was going to be really nice for all my garden plants, oh, that would be great. And if it was a perennial, that would be even better.
Have you tried Monarda?
I'm not sure if that's native.
Yeah, Monarda's native.
Bee balm.
To-
Bee balm, the wild one's native,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
They both
Okay.
there's a red form that you can make tea from.
The
And
purple
there's a
one, I think,
purple
is
form that-
native.
Yeah, that blooms a little later.
Right.
You can use it as
so
a
I think some of
herb,
those are cultivars too. So
Some of them
you
are.
can get the straight ones,
Right.
yeah, no, there's
True
tons
native.
of plants. Milkweed is, wonderful.
yeah,
Be
milkweed.
careful with the milkweed.
That'll
Why?
take over.
It gets weedy. It's like in
Milkweed.
its name.
We,
It gets-
well,
We have it by our garden and it can get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
send them
careful.
this way.
The swamp milkweed, one time one grew up in the garden and I was like so excited. We babied that thing for the monarchs. And oh, I've been ripping it out ever since. The pretty orange one, I don't think is invasive, but the big one with the pom-poms, the
the white
swamp
one?
milkweed becomes very invasive. I
But do
will
you have
tell you,
beautiful- do you-
Like the white flowers?
yeah, it's like a big pink flower, pink and white.
Mm,
Yeah.
Get beautiful
Yeah.
butterflies hopefully coming to visit them?
You know what? In the community garden, we have a cutting garden. They're not native necessarily, but we've been growing flowers all along. And we also liked the members, one of the bonuses is you also get bouquets of flowers. And I also grow a lot of sunflowers. The sunflowers really bring in a lot of birds and bees. And then I put flowers, mostly zinnias, marigolds, your common cosmos. They're not natives, but cutting flowers in with the garden. And there's also a lot of mint, which people hate and want to get rid of. But I got to tell you, that mint brings in so many bees.
Mint's invasive. Mint's very invasive.
I know, but it really brings in bees. And
Yeah,
I
we're gonna put them
fight
in
for it.
containers. We're gonna put mint in containers around
Yeah.
our.
Sarah, can
Fantastic.
you grow that mint outside your deer fence? You
Oh,
you got
yeah.
to, yeah. So
Nothing-
it would grow out there, and the deer aren't interested in mints. So
No,
Yeah.
it
not
could
at
actually
all.
be outside your garden fence.
They won't touch it.
Well,
They will
it
not-
was outside the garden fence, and then when we redid the fence, it turned out inside the fence. But there's a place that belongs to the community center that, it's a long story, but I plan on moving mint down there just because it's invasive. Hee hee.
Ouch.
Ooh.
Don't forget this is being recorded, Sarah.
Michael, it likes wet,
Police could
mint
use
likes
this.
wet feet as well. If you have a wet spot, Chad, if you have a wet spot, mint really, there's especially certain types of mint, they like water mint, you know, peppermint, spearmint, they love wet legs. They thrive in wet areas.
We have
In
that's
fact-
community garden. We have a lot of wet areas.
Yeah,
I'll tell you something that's very pretty and perennial, and it's not invasive, is what's called cat mint.
Oh, I was gonna say that. Nepeta, Walker's Low.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's beautiful and it's long lasting. It blooms, has a very long bloom period. If you cut it back, you'll get another one. I also have a great big comfrey plant, which is great for, you make compost tea and all that with it.
Yeah.
Comfrey, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
Chad, you said you have one. If you have,
Yes.
if you have any extra you want to get rid of, I'll take a cutting of that.
Oh,
Mark,
yeah,
I'd
come
love
visit
some
me.
comfrey.
Come visit me, Mark. I have too many comfrey plants.
Yes.
You can
All
take
right.
as
I would
many
love
as you
some of that.
want.
And I just
also-
put out my begging bowl to Sarah for swamp milkweed, Sarah, if you're ever pulling them out. So throw some my
Yeah.
way. I will.
You know what
Michael,
happens is they have such a long tap root that they're almost impossible.
Can't get rid of
If
them.
I can get one
Yeah.
that's got roots on it, I'll get one out for you.
Oh,
Michael,
good.
what about Rebecca?
You know, Michelle, you
Rebecca
asked
Susan.
about lavender.
Yes.
And I've never had good luck with lavender lasting more than a season or two, but when Sarah just mentioned the catmint, I find I've replaced the lavender with that.
Right.
Yeah,
And
they're
it does
beautiful.
very well. Yeah,
They're beautiful.
And
And
they're very
the
similar.
pollinators love them, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely love it.
Michael, what about Black-Eyed Susans, Rebecca?
Rebecca
That's a
is
great,
good.
You know,
and also cornflowers. They can get in, they tend to overseed pretty quickly, but I'm gonna actually put in a huge plot of cornflowers by where our bees are. I did it a
found
couple
the
years ago, they come up
rabbits
really
ate
nice.
those.
What's that?
I said, I found rabbits ate all of mine. Do you have problems with
No, well,
rabbits?
we have a fence around it, so we don't have any, no, I've never had a problem with any animals eating the cornflowers.
Okay,
Um,
maybe I'll
Yes.
put them in a fence area, yeah.
now that you folks are mentioning these things, we actually already have a lot of them in our backyards, in our deer fence. But there's a couple of things I'll plant more of. But like I said, there's sort of two projects going on as Sustainable Warwick. One is a Zoom garden plot and all the gardeners, and the other is this pollinator pathway. And I just was trying to look for some overlap between the groups, and you know.
Yeah, no, it's very important.
Okay.
But it's so funny. There's such a contrary, like cold weather, and then warm weather. Think of this perennial way, and then just think of the annuals. But sorry, let's continue. We got all.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So that was the middle of the announcements, and so sorry.
Yeah.
We have to get
And
back to the announcements.
I think there's questions we didn't even get to.
Yeah, Michael's question
Right.
about the asparagus, but let me quickly run through these and then we'll come back to Michael's question. So there was an announcement that was sent out not too long ago to say that the No Mow May yard signs were not available, but we plan to make them available at some point down the line, hopefully in time for May. If you'd like to sign up for one, please contact Chad at growlocalgwl@gmail.com. There is a permaculture presentation planned on April 20th at 7 p.m. at the Warwick Historical Society, which should be super interesting. For about an hour and a half, it looks like.
Yeah,
7 to 8.
Christopher Harrison's going to be doing it. He's about homesteading and living through permaculture.
Awesome.
He's one of our early Zoom garden plot people.
Awesome. So go out and support him if you can. And then there was one more, Christy, if you can just go back.
Yeah.
Thank you. And note that the Sustainable Warwick meetings are now on the fourth Wednesday of the month, and we're going to meet at the Warwick Community Center as opposed to the church. And it's in person with hopefully Zoom availability as an option too for those folks who can't attend in person.
Michelle, do you know if the permaculture lecture is going to be recorded?
I don't know. Chad, how about you? Do you know?
I do not know. I know it's a lot. I think it's a live thing, so probably not, I would say. Because this is not a Zoom thing. It's going to be in person. So
A person.
Right.
Okay.
I would think it's probably not, but I mean, it might be, but I would not count on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Christy, I'll let Michael ask his question about asparagus because I already had my first question answered by Bill. So go ahead, Michael.
So we have 2 asparagus patches, and I sort of like to, as I was saying before, I like to uncover one. You uncover them, and take the stuff out far, far away. So hopefully you get rid of some asparagus beetles. But my question for asparagus patch tenders is, it's kind of nice to like uncover one first and let it come up a little bit early and uncover the other one later. But is anybody uncovering their asparagus patch at this point in time, or are they still letting it sit for a while? Mark is shaking his head no.
I have asparagus because I have seeds just germinated in my garden. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't like asparagus, but I don't do anything with it, and it just comes up every year. So
Excuse me.
I'm not.
Excuse me, you said you don't like asparagus?
We all heard him.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said that.
Do I have to leave? Do I have to?
Mark, have you tried eating the asparagus that's growing in your garden? I mean, I understand after you've eaten the stuff that's growing in the garden, maybe I can understand not liking the stuff in the store, but or find a neighbor who's sane and give them the asparagus.
I just can't eat it, but I hope I'm not like insulting anyone, but it just doesn't taste good to me. But
Wow, Mark, and you have all these volunteers and the rest of us are like dying to get asparagus in our garden.
it just keeps growing. I'm like trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, good asparagus karma.
Wow. Michael, I will tell you that we had a few asparagus plants over in the community garden that someone put in, and since then they've been removed because it just wasn't worth it, but we never mulched them. And growing up in good old Ohio, my mother had a huge asparagus bed, which nothing was done to. We let it grow crazy all, summer. And then as far as I know, it got cut back in the fall, but it was never mulched, nothing. And winters in Ohio, there's not a lot of snow cover. They can be a little harsh. That stuff was there for years. So
I'm wondering if all that cover might not be adding to your problems, Michael, in terms of things overwintering in it.
Yeah. Because I found once it's established, it, In fact, we had some, I pulled it out and they were still coming up, and I tried transplanting them. But once you've got it going, I think maybe I would take the mulch off and see what happens.
I know a lady who lived up by between Harris and Liberty, New York, if anyone knows where that is. And
Oh, yeah.
her husband had planted asparagus when they built their house. And like 50 years later, she was still harvesting that asparagus.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
She lived to be almost 100. Wonderful lady. Grace.
It's all that asparagus, Mark. Good for you.
Yeah. That gives me an idea. We're building a new bed over in that orchard. Maybe then we can put asparagus in.
If you come by,
Okay.
you can have mine.
All right, Christy, I want to go back to the questions and see what else we have. We're running out of time quickly. Actually, we're over time, so let's see what we can cover. Can you go back one? I think I had one more question. So I see Leslie. Thank you, Leslie has already answered that in part. But does anybody have any lavender plants varieties that they overwinter successfully?
Yes.
What do
A couple quick things on the lavender and the thyme. Lavender and thyme is hardy to at least zone 5. So you should have no problem overwintering it by the temperature. And
Mine was
lavender,
in
unless it's Spanish or French, lavender and English lavender is pretty hardy to zone 5 or 6 or 5. So I don't think it's unless you have Spanish or French, I don't think it should be a problem. I think the problem that I have is when I'm like this year, I lost all mine, but most years I don't lose anything. And the problem is not so much the cold, it's the wind.
The wind,
You
yeah.
cover it up because it'll desiccate very easily, and you'll get a lot of problems with it'll just dry up. There's no snow. When we have snow covers, even it's fine if you put the snow cover melts and the plants look beautiful. When there's very little snow cover or it's not consistent and you get these dry winds with no snow cover, it'll just decimate the plant. The plant will dry up, and you'll get either a lot of dead branches or a lot of dead, the plant, or it'll just kill it outright. And I mean, I've lost a lavender in the garden. I lost most of my lavenders this year because I don't cover them up. But it had nothing to do with the temperature. It had more to do with the lack of snow cover. So that's what I would suggest. Wrap it up in a burlap or cover it with some kind of like breathable fabric like a burlap. And burlap you can just toss in your compost when you're done with it. But that would probably help it to survive, or give it a better shot.
So so they're not really suitable for if you've got wet soil, heavily wet soil, they're not really good.
That's
Unless you
another thing too.
that soil somehow, if you mound them up, but they like dry feet.
Yeah, and I've got such wet soil, so I think that's exactly it.
That's another thing. You're right. They like dry feet. They like sandy soil. They're basically Mediterranean plants, so they like that Mediterranean dry soil. They like a pH, a high pH. They like an alkaline soil, a sweet soil. They don't like acid. But think of where they grow. They grow like on, you go to Bermuda, you go to California, you go to the Mediterranean, that dry, sandy soil that's high in alkaline. That's the kind of soil they like. So if it's acid or if it's wet, like, I don't know, somebody else said they won't make it either. So if you're in a spot where it gets wet and it pools up, that's gonna do damage to it as well.
Yeah, right plant, right place. I don't learn, right? And I don't know.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any more slides after this, Christy. I think my other question we'll have to keep because we've kind of run over time. So does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just real quick, Michelle, I looked up some of the stuff that we can use if you want to use dyes. And really quick, I looked up cornflower flowers. The actual petals are good for dyes, and marigolds. I should have plenty of that. I can I'm gonna plant a lot of cornflower this year, blue cornflower, and if I have the time, and hopefully I will, I can try to pick as many flowers as I can. And I guess you got to dry the flowers out.
Yeah.
I don't know but it's like you dry the flowers out, and then you take the actual petals, the blue petals, and you make dye out of that. And I looked into rose madder, and that's a little bit more complicated. It's the root. It takes about 2 or 3 years to but that can seed, dedicated to it. But this year I should have cornflakes and marigold. If you want to try dying with it.
Yes, I will definitely take you up on that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay, so if no one else has any last words, I think this is a
Thank
wrap.
you.
Thank you for attending. We'll see you on that. What is it again, Chad? The 18th?
Oh, let me see. I don't know.
No, the 25th. The 25th.
25th, yes.
We'll see you.
Great
And there
seeing
you go.
everybody
Thank
again.
you, Christy. Perfect.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
seeing you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.